Good morning, Boker Tov. Great to have you with us. If you'll join us for our study of the Parshat Bamidbar, and also looking at some Rashis, and once in a while a Torah Temimah. Take care. All right. Hi, Rav. It's good to see you. Let me find the passage. I've got a lot of stuff open here. Okay, close that. And open up. Here we are. Okay. Open this. Enlarge this. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay. So we start, I think, yeah. All right. So we were talking about, we didn't read all the Hebrew here. I'm leaving that for you to do yourselves, at least to study that however you wish. And we're continuing here with verse 48 of chapter 1. All right. We actually did read this because I remember we talked about this, the reason, okay, that a lot of people are not really aware that the selection of the tribe of Levi was plan B. That actually does come up later on in this Parsha, because there are 5 shekels taken from the sons of the Levites, from the firstborn males of the Israelites. And what happens is that there's the counting of the Levites. When the Levites are counted, there's also the counting of the firstborn males. And it's sort of interesting. What happens is that every firstborn male of the Israelites is sort of accounted for by a Levite male. But the point is that there are, let me think of how this works out. Okay, I think the way it works out is that there are fewer Levites than there are Israelite firstborn males. And so they have to have a lottery on the Israelites, where there are so many tickets that say, the number of Levites that there are so many tickets are made that say Ben Levi, that in other words, and then what's ever left over in number of Israelites, it says 5 shekels. So you put your hand into the box, you take out a ticket, and if it says Ben Levi, you don't owe any money. But on the other hand, if you put your hand in the box and it comes out and says 5 shekels, you have to pay 5 shekels to redeem yourself, so to speak. And the reason they did it that way is because if you went up to an Israelite and said, listen, we need you to donate 5 shekels because there isn't a Levite to take your place, what's the Israelite going to say? How do you know it's me? Maybe I'm actually accounted for by another Levite. So this way they had a lottery to determine which one was going to be. All right. So we're looking, excuse me, so I've got these pages set up. Hold on, we're going to go, yep, okay. I think I'm going to, let me see, need to get back into preview. Let's go back here. 1 second, let's see. I may have to stop the share for a second and redo this. Yep, okay, that's better. All right, go back into the share and see how that works. All right. Make sure I have the right place. Yep, there we are. All right. So let's take a look at that verse. Verse 15. V'ata hafked et haleviim and you account, right, or appoint. That's what I translated it up as. Appoint the Levites al Mishkan regarding the Mishkan Ha'edut, the Mishkan, right? How do you translate it? The Mishkan of testimony, the Al Kol Kelav, and regarding all its utensils, the Al Kol Asher Lo, and all that belongs to it, that is associated with it. Hema Yis'u et HaMishkan. They, in other words, the Levites, will carry the Mishkan. By the way, notice this word naso again. It's to lift up, but in this case, carry the Mishkan, the et kol kelav, and all its utensils, all its vessels. The hem yishartuhu, and they will serve it. They will v'saviv la Mishkan yachanu, and they will encamp yachanu saviv la Mishkan, around the Mishkan, around the tent of meeting is what. Well, that's Ohel Mo'eh. So Mishkan is a place of residence, right? A place of dwelling. So what's the noun you get out of that? I'm not certain. I have to really think about it.
Shekhinah.
That's right. It's related to it. It means indwelling presence, right? So Mishkan is the place where the Shekhinah shochenet dwells. And by the way, modern Hebrew, shikun, neighborhood, is called a shikun. Okay. So, and by the way, I wonder if it's related to the word for a pledge, like if you leave a pledge to, or collateral for a loan, it's called a mashkon, same thing. In other words, that resides with you, something like that. All right. Let's take a look at the Rashi. V'ata hafked et halavim, and as for you, hafked et halavim, right? So Rashi's going to play with this word hafked. So we translated it as a point. So here he says, ketargumo, which means he appreciates, onkelos is Aramaic translation. Maneh would mean to lihimanot, to be counted, to be appointed. All right. So he says maneh. There's the word maneh, and maneh, lashon minui. It has the connotation of appointment, shrara, and authority. Okay. Al davar, concerning a matter. In other words, if I appoint you to do something, right? If I maneh you, I now single you out, I count you in that sense, but I'm also asking you, I'm giving you the authority regarding that particular thing.
To me, the word looks like mani, but
yes. But if you mean here, this word?
With the vowels and the onkelos.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah. It is mani. Did I say something else?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for catching me. There it is with the vowels, with the vocalization. Okay. Mani. So he says, in Hebrew it would be minui, right? Regarding something, shehem memuneh alav, he is appointed regarding it, kamo, and here we go, there's the word, vayafked hamelech pekidim. So this is from the book of Esther, okay, with Achashverosh, that the king appointed officers. So a pakid it's a word that's used in modern Hebrew to refer to a clerk, or should I say in English, clerk, and that's the word, or an officer.
He appointed appointees.
Yes, exactly. But trying not to be overly, I didn't want to appeal to the Department of Redundancy Department. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so we read this verse, and we're going to go on to verse 51. just checking. And yeah, great. I have some people who are watching. Good morning, Barbara. It's great to have you here. Thank you. Ron, if you're still watching, happy to have you. Take care. All right. Uvan soa hamishkan, and when the mishkan, when the tent of meeting, right, the place of the mishkan, the place of dwelling, vinsoa, when it journeys, yoridu oto, they shall disassemble it, haleviim, the Levites. The Levites will be in charge of this. You know, you think about it, this is one of the first, at least that I'm aware of, recorded prefabricated dwellings, prefabricated housing, which they could set up and take down. I mean, when you think of the engineering involved, that is pretty cool, okay? So anyway, let's go here. All right. Let's make sure I want to finish it here. Oh yeah, okay. Uvechanot hamishkan, and when the mishkan is, I want to look that up and see. Do you have a translation handy? Otherwise, I will find one. You know, here I've read that word how many times? Pardon?
I do. When the dwelling, they call it the dwelling, mishkan.
Okay, there we go. All right, see what I mean? It's
the
hard.
Levites shall take it down.
Right.
And when the dwelling is to be pitched,
Yeah.
they call it pitched.
Right, that's, I'll get to that in a second. Right, we haven't gotten to that yet, but yes. Let me, oh, you know what they call it? How they translate it? Tabernacle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how they translate it in the JPS. Well, thank you. I knew what the word Mishkan meant, I just couldn't translate it.
What about uvachanot?
Yeah, let me get to it. Let me see where we are. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Uvachanot hamishkan, and when the tabernacle, so machaneh is camped. So in other words, when the tabernacle is to be encamped, all right? Yakimu oto haleviim, the Levites shall put it up. They shall erect it. So they'll take it down, they'll put it up. The hazar hakarev yumat, but the stranger, the non-Levite, who draws near, who tries to involve himself, yumat, shall be put to death.
So that means shall be put to death, not shall die.
It could mean that too. It could mean that too. Okay? We'll see. So it could, I mean, and it may be that saying shall die is a better translation because it leaves as a question mark whether it means put to death or die. Okay? Of natural causes or by divine agency. And we'll see. That needs to be determined. Okay? There is something called, this is a halachic term, mita bidei shamayim, means death at the hands of heaven, literally. And that is to be distinguished from karet, which is also translated as excision, one of those English words that maybe means just as much as the term karet. It might as well be in Hebrew, because it's not a word that we're really familiar with. But basically it means cutting off. All right. They both involve death, but they are considered different halachic categories. Here we go, verse 51 in the Rashi. I'm going to make it slightly larger. Yoridu oto, they shall take it down, literally. Laharim is to put up, and lahorid is to take down. Ketargumos, so here we go. Yifrekun, they shall, so Yifrekun sounds to me like they'll take it apart. That's what the sort of term of Yifrekun means. Okay? Kesheba'in lisa bamidbar, when they come to journey in the wilderness, mimasa lemasa, from one journey state or one journey to another journey, Hayu mefarkin oto, they would take it apart. They would take apart the Mishkan. Mehakamat. It's probably mehakamato or something like that. That could be a letter that's badly printed. There could be a vav. In other words, they should take it apart from its place of where it stands. Okay. Venosin oto, and they carry it ad makom asher yishkon sham ha'anan, to the place until they reach the place where the cloud will rest. Okay, remember they followed the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire at night. So when it came and rested at a certain place, they knew that was their next encampment. V'yachanu sham, and they would encamp there. Umakimin oto, and they would then set it up. V'hazar hakarev. Okay, so by the way, Rashi's going to answer our question. Hazar hakarev la'avodatam zo. He says this when it says who draws near, the stranger who draws near, la'avodatam ze, zo, for this service that they're providing, right? Of putting it together, taking it apart, carrying it, all those elements, yumat bidei shamayim, at the hands of heaven. So this, if a person does this, their death is not placed on, the responsibility of ending their life is not placed on a court. They don't need to bring witnesses, they don't need to do anything. It's left up to God to take care of that. Okay? Next verse. Just keeping an eye on the time here. Sorry. Yep. Moving right along. V'chanu b'nei Yisrael, and the children of Israel will encamp, ish al machanehu, each man according to his encampment, the ish al diglo, and each man according to his standard, his banner. So each tribe, remember, had a tribal banner. Letziv otam, according to their host. Right. Again, the word sava has the meaning of army, host, whatever. Okay? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I had loved to have a better word than I have, but that's how they would translate the word sava. The modern Hebrew word sava refers to the army. So its group, it means some kind of organization, right? That they're organized in a certain way. Okay, let's take a look at this again. Yeah, ish al diglo, each man according to his banner, according to his degel, modern Hebrew word for flag. Yep. Kamo shehadgalim sidurim b'sefer zeh, just as the banners are arranged in this book. Shlosha shvatim l'chol degel, 3 tribes according to each standard. So they basically obviously had 4 standards, 3 tribes apiece, representing that. This is all helpful. I mean, the reason why I love reading this stuff is because it basically isn't telling you what you could have figured out for yourself anyway. It always sort of adds depth to what we're understanding here. V'haleviim yachanu saviv lamishkan, and the Levites, but the Levites, will encamp around the tabernacle, okay? Ha'edut of testimony. V'lo yeh ketzef, so that there shall not be anger or destruction. You know what this stands for, right? This is Jastrow Dictionary, page 1406. So I try to be somewhat careful about stuff. The word ketzef. It comes, liktzov means to be angry. You find that in the Megillah, about the king grew angry, something like that, right? Al adat b'nei Yisrael, regarding, so so there will not be destruction on the community of the children of Israel. The Shamru HaLeviim, and the Levites will guard et mishmeret. So there's Shamar, Shamru, Mishmeret, right? The watch, Mishkan Ha'edut, of the tabernacle of the testimony. The testimony, of course, refers to the that's the testimony, because it's called I think it's called the Ark of the Testimony as well, because the Ark contained the Ten Commandments.
Thanks for the
Uh-huh. I'm here to help. Okay. Yeah, I try to. Okay. So apparently the word can also mean mishmar. A mishmar is a watch, by the way. Like a watch of the night. Watchman, that kind of thing. Right. So, lishmor, to guard, and try to mention my references. All right, let's do. Is there nun gimel? Okay. Look at how Rashi is so sensitive to words that if you have a basic knowledge of Hebrew, these words would still give you some trouble. Okay? There shall not be ketzif. Here we go with the Rashi.
Is that plague?
It could be. It's something that would, so depending on how you define plague, it does mean some kind of destruction going on in the community. I think we could call what we're going through right now, the coronavirus, a plague. So, and but here in Sonoma County, it can be floods, it can be fires, it can be earthquakes. It does how you define plague. All right. So he goes on to say, so that there not be a destructive force, im ta'asu kamitzvotai, if you shall do according to my commands, lo yeh ketzef, there will not be ketzef, ve'im lav, however, if not, sheyikansu zarim ba'avodatam zo, if in fact strangers, non-Levites, go into this work, they enter into this their work, yeh ketzef, there will be destruction. K'moshe matzinu b'ma'aseh Korach, just as we found in the actions of Korach. So Korach wasn't happy with his Levitical responsibilities. He wanted to also be a priest, and there was destruction, right? The earth opened up, there was fire that came and burned people, a lot of bad stuff. So we could use this if you like. I'm sorry that I don't have my cousin-in-law present, as saying that Hashem is clearly in favor of strong unionization. By the way, ma'am, you'll appreciate that. Plato's The Republic, right, describing a perfect state. What's the basic consideration? If you were to sum up in one phrase, what is Plato's conclusion regarding the perfect state? Let every cobbler stick to his last. In other words, you should know your place. That's the secret of a perfect state, is don't go doing someone else's job. But in America, of course, we know better than the doctors, we know better than the scientists, we know better than the architects, we know better than, right? All of us are experts. So, of course, you want to get someone with minimum amount of experience.
In a somewhat more
I'm sorry?
way.
Yes, I couldn't hear you, ma'am. Say it.
I'm sorry. In a somewhat more rational way,
Yes.
can we enforce that in any way? We cut ourselves out of some real talent. In England in the Middle Ages, William Marshall, essentially pulled the chestnuts out of the fire.
Yeah. Tell me more. I don't know about this.
I don't know a whole lot about it, but he was a commoner, and he rose to prominence as, I believe, something having to do with the exchequer, and, made his system work?
So my understanding of exchequer would be that your responsibility for the economy, the national economy.
Yeah, ultimately that's where he was.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So what are you trying?
The dates better.
No, that's okay. But the point you're trying to make, just to clarify.
Just the point I'm trying to make is that when we insist that everybody stay in his own place, which is probably hereditary, because that's, you're born into that, we deny ourselves talent that can be very, very helpful to the society.
Okay, so what is interesting is yesterday or the day before, we read in the Torah the fact that, remember that the whole Levitical system was Plan B. And the hereditary system would have been the firstborn males. They are the ones who would have taken the job of the Levites. And the reason why the Levites were selected is that they were the only tribe that remained loyal to God at the incident of the golden calf. So I do truly appreciate, the point you're making, which is to say that it isn't, you can't just you have circumstances always alter cases, right? And it depends on the nature of the job, what the job entails, what kind of job it is. But apparently this particular responsibility, which is, as you can see, essentially physical labor, right, requires organization and stuff like that. And in that case, there needs to be some job security. I don't think a country is better off for not having labor unions. And I think it's important to balance and have some security. Otherwise, we have the other problem, right? Which is, people who don't know anything or have no experience in a particular situation, thinking they can take over, because a little knowledge, as you know, is a dangerous thing. So, but I think the point you make is well made. So one has to look at the specific circumstances and see, in this particular case, why the Torah is very strict about this here, and on the other hand, and feels a need to protect the Levites. And of course there were checks and balances. The Levites received no land. It's the old story is you can have everyone's entitled to a piece of the pie, no one's entitled to the whole pie. So I don't feel like I've sufficiently answered why dafka this particular duty on the part of the Levites, and why others would not be, they were strictly excluded from this particular job.
Well, if you're dealing with a cult system, in which you have a priesthood, and in a sense the Levites are part of the priesthood, they're not Kohanim, but they are a group set apart
Correct.
to deal with the cult. And one of the things that happened in Jewish life was that when the priesthood became thoroughly corrupt under the last Hasmoneans and Herodians, and the temple was destroyed, the rabbinic solution was not to reconstitute the priesthood. It was to open communal leadership to talent.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. Yeah.
People who were not Kohanim, who were not Levim, but who could learn.
Different role.
Interpret, who
Right.
could lead.
True. but there's again, one has to it's not a wholesale representation, and it's interesting that the rabbinic tradition didn't say, oh, so if he's a learned person and he studied a lot of Torah, he can now take the 5 shkalim. There was still an understanding on the part of the rabbis and a deep respect for the law of the Torah, and that the rabbis never would have come and said, yeah, from now on it's okay for a non-Levite to do the tasks that the Levites were given in the Torah. So there's obviously a check and a balance, and there's a recognition of the point that you made, that you don't want to deny talent. You want to allow talent to be able to come up to circle up to the top. But it does depend, and of course, saying that the priesthood was completely corrupt, that's quite a sentence. But the point is, it was essentially corrupted. We know that there are both benefits and dangers in terms of having dynasties. The benefit, obviously, is that when you grow up in a particular family with certain tasks, there's some things that you just can't learn. You have to experience them, and the difference between theory and practice. But to go to only one extreme, clearly is a problem. So I think the discussion we're having, and the sort of, I don't know that it's a debate necessarily, but the discussion we're having is something that one has to be mindful of. So there's a reason why society develops in its own particular, along these ways, and has done so, over the millennia. But this is, we'll look a little bit more into the Levites. This is what's going to, take our attention from here on in. We're going to have to start the class, but thank you. I really appreciate, what you contribute, and what everybody contributes. So, to be continued. I'm going to stop the share. We're going to get started with our service. Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Tish.
I can't stay, but I just wanted to check in. I'll stay through.
I know, you said till about 9 o'clock. I know.
Well, probably about 10 out. But,
That's fine. You do what you need to do. So I'm gonna. Okay, I just want to take care of the Facebook broadcast that I have, because I'm gonna sign off. So I am going to sign off in a moment. I appreciate your watching. If you want to message me, if you want me to keep on the Facebook, broadcast here for the service itself, which we're going to start in a moment, let me know, and next time I will just keep the transmission going. But for now, I am going to end this, and it'll be recorded on the Facebook page, on my Facebook page. And I really appreciate your being here. Thank you for watching, and take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.